Welcome to the InCred podcast.
This season, we bring you an inside look into our company, our services, and our people. Join us as we share stories of our successes, challenges, and lessons learned from our incredible leaders. A warm welcome to all our listeners. Our speaker for today is someone who is very close to home. He's head of SME partnership at InCred, Mr. Nishith Maheshwari. Welcome, Nishith. Firstly, thank you for taking the time out to be a part of this episode. To begin with, can you please tell us a little bit about your background, your experience, and how you started your journey in the world of ecosystem lending?
So I started my career with Infosys post my MBA. Was part of the strategy team at Infosys for about 2 years. Based out of Bangalore, this is back in 2013, 2014. India was just seeing the initial boom of a lot of tech startups, e-com platforms, everything just coming up around the same time. And then I would meet a lot of these founders in Bangalore at different events. And I think at some point, just the kida to do something of your own got into me. Left Infi to start my own mobile gaming company called iGame League. We did raise some initial round, and but that company couldn't scale up beyond a point. We were doing cash tournaments on skill-based games. But while I was building iGame League, I think got the sense and the insight that mobile phone is actually a gold mine, right? In terms of the amount of data that one can get through a smartphone. And during that journey, I was clear that while iGaming was shutting down, that I want to move towards lending because lending will change, or fintech is going to boom in the next decade to come in India. Just because of the amount of alternate data that you can capture to assess grow in a much better way. And I think that was the start. InCred was starting up around the same time. Was the first member of the SME partnership team. Been with InCred since the first loan, this was 6+ year journey. And I think that's how I started my career into merchant lending or ecosystem.
Well, when it comes to finance, a lot of finance are looking for funds. What are some of the challenges you see merchants or sellers facing? And it could be confusing. So, could you please share some process and insights while applying for the loan?
So as an entrepreneur, right, your life is very, very difficult. You're, running around so many different things in terms of what inventory you want to buy, what is the upcoming design and trend, how are you going to promote your product to sell well, what is the marketing advertisement strategy that you should do, what are the platforms where you want to list, do you have sufficient inventory? Yes, no, solve for customer complaints, customer feedback. Now, there's so many moving parts when you're building a business. And while you're solving for all of this, a lot of these entrepreneurs don't get the time to really plan the financing, right? Or to plan the right amount of finance that they need to do well in a particular festive sale so that they can stock up on different inventory, right? And they would go running around here and there in terms of bank to bank. They don't know which product they should apply for. And there's just lack of clarity in terms of how to assess this. I think that is the entrepreneur's biggest challenge in terms of what is the right product fitment for him to solve for his financing solutions. Where should he really go to? I think the ask from a lot of merchant is, can I get on tap money available when I need it? And that is what we're trying to solve. Well, that's a lot of insights for a lot of merchant sellers, of course. And now that we've covered the merchant side, we would, it's ideal that we move to the, the lending side. Like, what factors we evaluate while, checking their credit worthiness of the buyers? What factors do we take into account when making lending decisions? Uh, we don't look at a lot of traditional data in terms of a lot of banks or a lot of traditional way of underwriting is looking at, how old your business has been. Do you own your own office or do you own your own warehouse and so on and so forth? We don't give much weightage to a lot of these factors. And a big reason for that also is that a lot of our borrowers are also very new age. They are building their product now. They're setting up the companies now. They're solving The entire, D2C movement is still very recent, right? So I can't really look at a company which is and say, oh, you were not there 10 years ago. It is all coming up now. We look at a lot of alternate data in terms of uh, what's their product category, what are their ratings, what are their reviews, what is their return ratio, what is the ROAS, which is the return on ad spend in terms of how much you're spending on acquiring a customer, and then what is the revenue that you're generating, right? We look at data in terms of, and a lot of our customers also are doing very seasonal sales or trends. So, for example, uh, if you're selling Diwali lights, right? I can't really look at what was the historical data. I know your peak season is probably, or if you're selling decorative lights, which is your peak season would be Diwali, Christmas, when people buy a lot of decorative lights. So I don't have to look at data that, hey, what did you do in July? Because your sale would probably be low, but your sale in October, November will be 10x. And that is what we're trying to solve for in terms of you doing the maximum potential on your business when it's your peak season time, right? So we look at a lot of these alternate data. We also look at categories which we believe or where we are seeing trends which are going to grow multifold. And if you are in the same category and segment, and then if you have very high ratings review, let's say if you're forced rated on multiple e-com platforms, or you're a cloud kitchen having a 4 rating on restaurant platforms, we know you will get a lot of repeat customer base, and your sales will be on the increasing trend line, right? And that is the kind of entrepreneurs we want to really finance and support.
Well, I'm sure that would help a lot of merchants out there. Since we've covered what the sellers can do and what we look for in them, it could only lead to the next question: is what do you see happening in the next few years? What do you see as the biggest trends or changes in the world of ecosystem lending?
So, ecosystem lending is currently still at a very, very initial phase, right? I think uh, this space has actually come up in the last few years. And if you look at any data, right, in terms of the amount of sellers who are there on e-com platforms, I think it's about close to 1.5 million sellers now. And that trend is only going. You're getting new e-com platforms which are coming up, right? Like Nika, which is now only doing cosmetics. You have Misho, which is doing tier 2, tier 3 cities. And you have a lot of these B2B platforms which are now coming up. So the entire ecosystem as a whole is developing. You look at restaurant aggregators, I think both Swiggy, Zomato, they continue growing. Cloud kitchen as a concept was not existent 10, 15 years ago, right? The amount of people in offices who now order in their lunch or mid meals on a Swiggy, Zomato is just this entire space has come up in the last few years, and you have a lot more cloud kitchens which are coming up. You have a lot more cloud kitchens which are now doing very dedicated cuisines in terms of salads and healthy options and so on and so forth. You look at UPI transactions, right? That's been growing multi-x over the last few years. I was reading this recent report which said about 2,500 UPI transactions per second. And this number is all going to grow, right? And as these numbers grow, the opportunity for ecosystem lending is only going to grow, because earlier a lot of your transactions at a Kirana store or a mom and pop store was probably in cash. So you could not really evaluate in terms of what's the business this person is doing. Today, with UPI transactions, the ability for a small SME to accept money through a digital means that from a credit underwriting perspective, I have a lot more data to really underwrite his business and solve for his financing needs. So I see this space growing a lot. I also see that there'll be a lot of new products coming up, right? You still have a lot of these typical term loan products for SMEs, but if you see on the consumer side, the entire consumer lending ecosystem has changed in terms of pay later, credit lines, personal loans. There's so many products on the consumer side. And what happened on the consumer lending space over the last 5, 7 years, I think SME lending is that initial curve where you will see a lot more innovative products coming up to finance the growing need of SMEs.
Well, I think that's a great news for all the merchant sellers out there. I'm pretty sure they would be happy to have much more options as the merchant or ecosystem lending grows much further. My final question to you would be, can you please share a success story or two from your experience working with merchants and providing them with finance they need to grow and thrive?
So lots of them. I think the biggest success story that we've had is at least about 8 to 10 of the companies that we financed previously were on Shark Tank season 2. And that shows the kind of business they've grown to be on Shark Tank and then also get some equity for the business that we're in. We have lots of success stories of entrepreneurs in tier 2, tier 3 towns where they took small lines from us about year and a half ago, and their business has grown up 4 or 5 times. I was meeting this one customer of ours who said he used to only sell on the Amazon, Flipkart, Indian ecosystem, but thanks to our financing, he's now been selling on their global platform, right? And his business has grown multiple times. I go shopping on any of these e-com portals or ordering food on a restaurant. I know that this is my customer because we financed him. And you see their business growing, a lot of repeat requirements for financing, which means then that their business has grown and they want more money to grow further. So lots of it, lots of success stories in terms of what we've done. And I think the biggest testimony is so many of our entrepreneurs coming on Shark Tank and then getting a bigger platform to raise equity and grow their business further. And the other biggest success story that we've had is almost 15 to 20% of our customer base, they're all women entrepreneurs, right? We've seen this growing trend of women entrepreneurs coming in, wanting to set up a shop. And I think the big impact that we've created is a lot of them. And the big thing that we've done is, a lot of these women entrepreneurs had to pause their careers because of having a baby, getting married, settling down, and didn't want to get back into the corporate lifestyle, but they wanted to do something. And they started selling online, maybe starting small, and we backed a lot of them. And many of their businesses have grown up 5x, 10x from what they've started, right? And I think that's the big impact that we've been creating. There are a lot of cloud kitchens which we finance where somebody started small, maybe started as a tiffin service to a small outlet, and now have running 2, 3 outlets at different places. And I think that's the big impact that we create on a day-to-day basis.
I think that's one thing that we all can take at InCred to be making such an impact, and we all are so proud about the same. Well, that was my last question, and I would like to end this by saying that this has been quite an informative and insightful talk. I'm pretty sure that this will immensely help all the entrepreneurs with their financing. And once again, thank you so much, Nishith, for speaking with us today.
Thanks a lot, Karan, for inviting me here. And it was great sharing my thoughts. Thank you so much.